Namaskar. We welcome all of you to our Women Empowerment series. Today, on our Women Empowerment series, we have Dr. Usha Roopnarain. She is a former member of Parliament in the National Assembly of South Africa, Shadow Minister of Health in KwaZulu-Natal legislature, a speaker and empowerment activist, peer-reviewed scientific journals, and published articles. She's also an author and a poet. She's a founder of Power to Empower, which does advocacy and lobbying group to challenge the inequalities in the society. She says that she started her political career as a researcher and a speechwriter. Shortly as she was elected as a member of parliament, then she spent 14 years in parliament and also served as a shadow minister of health. After resigning her position, she started Power to Empower, a lobby and activist group to speak up and speak out against social injustices. She's been working with Sonia and using every platform to agitate for change in society. She truly believes that she cannot change the world, but she can change one life at a time, and truly believes in the empowerment of humanity. I am so proud to introduce to all of you here today Dr. Usha Roopnarain. We welcome you. Over to you, Dr. Usha.
Thank you so much, Naveena. I must confess, I'm deeply honored and I'm humbled. And thank you so much for this opportunity. I feel really blessed to be in your presence. And I know you have a brilliant support on LinkedIn. And, I'm always looking at your posts. And I know about some of the brilliant work that you do in empowering people and their minds. So you've also done brilliant work. And in your introduction, you said, I used to be a member of parliament. And I think a lot of women can learn a lot from my journey. And that's why I'm sitting here in front of you virtually, of course, to tell other women and maybe men as well, what it is like to be on this journey. Naveena, I must say at the outset, our lobbying and advocacy, Power to Empower, it is about humanity. It's about men and women. And so often we find that in many empowerment sessions, we focus so much on women that we don't want the men to be left behind, because at home, it is the men who are our husbands. We have men or boys or our sons. We also want them to grow up respecting women. So that's, what I just wanted to say at the outset. But my career in politics began a long time ago. And I managed to survive 14 years in government. I call it my time in exile, because it was 14 years. And during this time, politics, and women don't usually gel, because politics for me was the last place I wanted to be. I was happy writing speeches. I was happy doing research. And when I was asked, do you want to be a member of parliament? My immediate reaction was, oh, no, this is not for me. Because we have this stereotypical image, we have this mindset. Men are politicians, and politicians are power hungry. They're usually very vicious, and they always abuse their power. So you have all these stereotypes in your mind. But I was told, try it, take up the platform. If you don't like it, you can always resign. So I became a member of parliament. I was in the legislature, and then I moved up to the National Assembly. And in this time, Naveena, as you would know, we are Indian women. And I got married. I had a child. And when you have a career and you become a mother, it puts another dimension into things. It almost becomes difficult. It's not the same, career women you were before. So I had a child and I had to travel to Cape Town. Now, if you know South Africa, our National Assembly is in Cape Town, and I reside in Durban, in KwaZulu-Natal, like you so rightly said. So it was very impactful on my family life, because I started to suffer with separation anxiety because my baby was home and I was working away. So I decided I couldn't continue. And also with politics, there's a huge mantle of responsibility, because you're being paid with taxpayers' money and you have to be on the next flight to whichever province. So you can't give 100% of your time and your effort and your energy into your work. So what happens is ultimately we have to make sacrifices. And sometimes, it so happens that women have to sacrifice. And I resigned from my position because I felt I have one child and I want to also be a very good mom. And I can't be a parliamentarian and be a mom while I'm away from her. So it was a very difficult decision, Naveena. And I resigned from my political seat. I gave it up and I came back home to be with my family. And in the process, I realized that there were no more media statements being made. There were no more emails. I was now at home and I felt the stagnation come on. And you're in the psychological field. You know that feeling when you're going to go into a pit, when you're going to go into a rut. And I also felt I was going into this pit because women were still calling me. People were still knocking on my door. People were still asking me, how do I access X, Y, and Z? So I felt, I couldn't shut them out. I couldn't stop this process. And I felt, fair enough, in Parliament, you have a title, you have all the parliamentary privileges, you get to travel business class. I didn't need any of this to make it happen. I still felt I could empower women. I still felt I had the power. So that's what led or birthed Power to Empower. So that has been my journey in a nutshell. It was from a place of being in actual physical power to being powerless. And then I realized I still have the power without the title. And I realized you can be a leader. A leader does not need to have titles. A leader is somebody who inspires somebody else. And I felt, you inspire us to talk by having the talk show. That's powerful. And these words that bring about power, like willpower, brain power, superpower. And having a talk show means giving me a powerful platform. And that's what I'm using today to empower women. So I'm hoping that women who listen to both of us interacting are going to go back and realize, yes, I don't need to have a title. I don't need to be inserted into an office, a political office. I don't need military power. I have some power within myself, whether it's my voice, whether it's the power of speaking, whether, we also say powerful dressing, powerful image, whatever it is. Some of us are brilliant cooks. We have some great recipes. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, outward. It can be a gift. It can be a skill. It can be a talent. But all you have to do is look within yourself. All the answers lie within yourself. And sometimes you need to know what is your passion? What is your purpose? What do you want to do? Do you want to empower? Or, sometimes people can actually make us also feel powerless. So we have that choice and we can actually choose. It's almost like a paradoxical sphere that we place to it. Do we have that power? Do we want to use that power? Do we want to claim that power? Do we want to share the power? And do we want to use that power? So the word power is so loaded. When we think of power, we think immediately of politics. We think of rulers. We think of might. And we think of Shakti, And we all have some power. It can be any skill that you have, but we must learn how to use that power. So that's very quickly in a nutshell, my career wise. But Naveena, I have to confess, it hasn't been an easy journey. And I think, no life's journey is an easy one, especially for women being in a masculine domain, because when you look at politics, immediately you think of old men being in politics, you think of people who are very corrupt being in politics. So for me, being in politics, I had to insert myself. And I wasn't made out like this. I had to reinvent myself if I were to survive. And whenever you're in an environment where you can't cope, you have to build up mechanisms. You have to realize, I need to be resilient. I need to cope. Because in politics, like being in a powerful relationship, it has a lot of criticism. There's darts, there's arrows, there's daggers, and they come directly at you, and they always aim for the jugular. So if you're a woman who's fragile, you have to reinvent yourself. You have to have a powerful presence, because also people, whenever they begin to interview you, and if you're a woman, they'll always ask you, what's your fashion sense? They'll focus always on your shoes and not your political views. So, that always comes into being. So that, for me, was my political journey. And I'm willing to answer any question that you have.
You have so beautifully shared your whole life to us just now. All the troubles that you have faced, you have shared it like a simple story, as if you have just drifted through your life. But I'm sure that you have faced a lot of challenges. I want you to share some of the challenges and what you actually did, the steps you took to overcome them with us today. Would you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Naveena. Naveena, we have to realize at some stage in our life that if we speak up, we have nothing to lose. I mean, if we speak out, like I said, we learn from other people's stories. Every one of us has a story. And some of us may not seem it adequate. May not seem that it's good enough. I mean, I consider myself really blessed to be in politics and to be an Indian woman here in South Africa, where we had apartheid. And if you know the political history, whenever people ask me, on whichever forum, are you Indian? And I say, I'm Indian, who? And they get shocked. And I say, yes, I know. I can speak Hindi, Thora. And they get so mesmerized with what I know. But it's been, like you so rightly said, it's a journey that's full of challenges. And it's been difficult, not just on a professional front, but also on a personal level. Because the man I married, he's a gynecologist. And we know as women, we are the ones that always have to look after the children, even if we have a political career which demands a lot, or whatever, whether we're in corporate world, it's very demanding. Ultimately, it's the women who will always have to make the sacrifices. It's the women who will always have to realize, this is what I can do. And it's almost like we are found having a weakness. And I found that many a times in my life. And I always tell this story that in South Africa, we have a rhinoceros. He has a very, very thick skin. And sometimes we have to learn that we're going to be criticized. We're going to come under the microscope. We're going to be scrutinized for our behavior. There are things that we're going to say politically that people don't like, our views. And you have to be brave enough to face it. There will be times when you are disrespected. But I always believe that respect is earned. It's a two-way process. And there's times when you will be humiliated. You will be publicly humiliated. It happened to me. But what do? I have to realize that each day it's a new day. I have to brush it off like the rhinoceros who has a tough skin. They're always after his rhino horn because they believe it's so potent. I always look at it and I realize this is it. I'm a woman. I have all my flaws, like we are human beings. Nowadays we're so accustomed to wearing masks. It seems to filter, it seems to block, it seems to help us almost, it cocoons us from all the negativities, from all the criticisms. So if there's anything I learned, it's you have to bounce back. You have to make a comeback. No matter how bad it is. I could be speaking to women who are bruised, who are battered, men also, people who feel like they can't get it together. They don't even know what their next move is. But I have a message, and it's from my story. You have to get up. You have to rise up. And it's always in rising that we learn to lift other people. So whatever you may be going through, maybe it's a physical challenge, an emotional one, maybe you're going through a breakup, maybe you've lost your job, but you have to look within. You have to realize, you have to rise up, you have to take charge and realize that there's some power. Maybe right now you're feeling powerless, but there's going to be a time where you're going to use that same effort, that same energy, that same story to lift somebody else. So don't ever think your story is not important. We all have stories to tell. Stories humanize us. Stories remind us that we are human. It is okay not to be okay. It is okay to fall apart. I fall apart so many days, but I also learned that I have to rise up. I have to put myself together, because if I don't help myself, nobody else is going to do it. And if I don't help myself, Naveena, how am I going to help other women who rely on me, who ask me how to do this? If they see somebody is broken and shattered on the other side, they're going to see powerlessness. And we don't want that. We want to be empowered. So there is my message. And we have to realize not every day is going to be blue skies. There's going to be stormy days. There's going to be gray skies. But we have to rise up all over again.
That is such a beautiful message, Dr. Usha. Like a phoenix which rises from the ashes, you have beautifully put a message across to each woman out there, each person out there, because all of us actually go through our own set of troubles, difficulties, and circumstances in life. And many at the time, it is those troubles and circumstances and difficulties that people are not able to overcome, which makes them feel shattered or broken from within. And you have showed a way that when people look up at you, you have the responsibility of putting yourself back together again. And that actually inspires you to take care of your own life better, because you need to be strong for the others. Instead of seeing it as a responsibility that you have to do it for the others, you have seen it as a beautiful way of leadership through which others can learn from. Now, that is a beautiful message for sure. So, Dr. Usha, I want you to tell us more today about what you do at Power to Empower. What are the things that you do with Sonia there?
Thank you, Naveena. Power to empower, when you say the word power, it has so much power to it. And I'd like to tell people via this Power to Empower, it's a lobbying group, because we believe that nobody must be left behind. We believe nobody must be marginalized. Nobody must be sidelined, whether you're man, woman, whether you're able or disabled, whether you're a child, or whether you're voiceless, whether you're vulnerable. Because so many times, Naveena, these children who are abused, whether sexually, physically, there's things like bullying, there's even women, gender abuse. And here in South Africa, we have the highest rates of gender-based violence in the world. We are the rape capital of the world. I mean, there's so much of negativity happening. And there's only so much that government can do or government does not do. So power to empower is like a vacuum. When you don't have leadership and when you have there's nobody else standing there in the gap. Power to empower is purely voluntary. There's no money to be paid. And during COVID, we had a soup kitchen that was there for 2 years. They never turned anybody away. So power to empower helps women, children, or even the marginalized with whatever it is, whether you're trying to access a skill, whether you're trying to get legal advice, whether you're trying to even get psychological advice. That's Sonia's department, because people, when they go through abuse, it's also emotional abuse. I mean, mentally, it's a psychological warfare for them. So you have to actually fight the battle also in your mind. So what we have is toolkits, we have master classes. We also try to empower women with skills, something simple like learning how to bake, because women can start their own home industries, they can supply to stores, that kind of thing. So women also learn skills like sewing, being a seamstress, tailoring, some basic skills. And also in terms of having access to a computer where women can also do homework for the children because they prefer it to be typed, to be researched, and they can also use a computer or laptop to send out their CVs, to do some research, just to know that there's a world out there, and we help them connect to the world. And Naveena, one of the things I'm constantly asked is, how much change can you bring about? And this is really one of the questions I constantly get asked. How much of change can one person or two sisters bring about? And I always remind people, whenever there's a Miss Universe contest, one of the questions they always ask the contestants is, what do you want to do if you are given this crown? And they always say, I want to change the world. But I always realize that we're not in a beauty pageant. This is the world we live in. We can't change the world. We cannot change the world. I mean, I'm in the land of both Mahatma Gandhi and Mandela. It was Gandhi who said that, be the change that you want to see in the world. And I always say, and like you so rightly quoted at the beginning, you can only change one life at a time. So even if I'm speaking to one woman today and I've changed her life, or I got her thinking in some way that she has power, then I've changed her life. I've done my work. And we can't say we can change the world. We don't even have that capacity. That is a superpower that belongs to the universe. It belongs to God. But we as individual women, we as individual human beings, we can only touch one life at a time. And if I do that, then I've done my work. So if I speak out to one woman who's listening and I've taught her about empowerment, it doesn't have to be a degree. It does not have to be, this immense power being a parliamentarian. No way. It's just tapping into that power. You can be a brilliant speaker. You can be a brilliant chef. I don't like to call them cooks because always we call men chefs and we call women cooks. I call them chefs, whether they're men or women. They are brilliant. So whatever it is you have inside, you have to look within you, and that takes time. And like you would know, Naveena, it's self-introspection. Look within, reflect on what's your great power. You could be great at helping somebody, just doing something for somebody, just being there for a friend. That is your power. That's the power of friendship. So power, it can be in so many forms. We are so, because the world has taught us about the abuse of power, and it's so easy to abuse power, we realize sometimes power is so negative. Power can make us feel powerless, and people, because they abuse their power, and we always think, oh, men are the abusers, but we need to stop thinking that way. And it all begins with our mindset and how much of power we're willing to say we have. And we know we have power over ourselves, over our thoughts. So I know that's a lot, that I've said, but that's essentially what Power to Empower is all about.
All what you have said rings true to me, Dr. Usha. There's not one word that you have said out of place here today. While you were sharing some of the work that you do, I did realize, apart from just going on platforms and sharing how to empower people, how to empower women, how to empower men in general, and motivate them to do their best, you also do a lot of physical help, like the soup kitchen you mentioned about, or having giving an access to computer facilities to people who don't have that access to do research and drop in an email to their loved ones. So where do you get the funds from? How do you mobilize it? Can I ask?
Yes, of course. Naveena, one of the things is, if you start off somewhere and you realize you are doing work and you think nobody is looking, I've realized that somebody is looking. Because like you so rightly said, that this project is a combined effort of Sonia. Sonia, she's an entrepreneur. She owns a building, a multi-story building. So that's how the building stood empty for 2 years. Well, during these 2 years when the building stood empty, the universe or God or whatever higher power you want to call it, people realized that this place can be used to help people, and it became a focal point and nobody was turned away. It's like there's a madrasa there, or whether sometimes you go to ISKCON, you have food for life. You have to realize in society you can't put people into boxes and say this is a religious has a religious bearing. No, you have to do things because you want to help humanity. You can't attach religion to it. You can't attach race to it. You can't attach gender to it. So I realized, even when I started speaking, that, it takes a lot to do a webinar. You have to research. You have to spend hours. You have to come across being flawless. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. I've done hundreds of webinars where I haven't received any payment for it, nothing. But I've realized when people give me feedback and they tell me, listening to you has changed my life. That's all I need to hear. I don't need a check at the end of it. I just need to realize that, somebody has gained from the gift, the talent that I have. And Naveena, when you do work, when you do humanitarian work, it's amazing that so many people, even on LinkedIn, will pick up the phone and tell you, can I also be part of that project? Can I on a Friday also cook meals for somebody? People will pour in. There is humanity, there is goodness, there is kindness. And people in Durban see it. People in KwaZulu-Natal see it. And they say, how did you start? I also want to do something. Can I join in? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to have millions. You don't have to have billions of dollars. You just have to have a little time, a little effort. You just have to come and serve. That's all it takes. It just takes that effort. And like you said, I also have my own challenges. I'm a perfectionist. I also feel guilty. There's times when Usha can't be everywhere. I mean, I have so many invitations and I feel so guilty at the end of the day. I say to myself, oh my God, I wish there was more of me to go around, because every day I'm invited. I try so hard, and I also have feelings. I'm human, Naveena. I also have feelings of guilt. I also have feelings, oh my God, this didn't go perfect. Last night I was in a webinar and I should have said that, and I should have made better slides. I also have all these feelings of inadequacy. So with all of that, I always said, I'm going to keep doing good. I'm going to continue. Maybe if I do 50 interviews, somebody is going to listen to me. Somebody is going to say she's done a good job. Somebody is going to say, I want to listen to her again. So that's what gives me my energy. That's what gives me my drive. And that's what tells me, when people tell me, I want to support the work you're doing. And people, even from Johannesburg, would call me and tell me, when I'm in Durban the next time, I want to be part of what you're doing. I want to be part of this. So that's when I know I'm doing something right. And it doesn't take a lot. It just takes initiative. It just takes some passion to believe in what you're doing. So that's what gets me going, Naveena.
That's wonderful, Dr. Usha. So I want you to share with us today for Power to Empower. You've shared about the wonderful ways that you are motivating people and the way you go all out to empower other people. Would you like to appeal to the viewers who are there out there to be able to share their funds for Power to Empower so that you can grow the wonderful work that you're doing for the people out there? Is there a way that you're already doing that? Would you like to share with us today?
Yeah. Naveena, I think, the greatest takeaway that anybody, who's listening in here to this afternoon can have is that, you need very little to start something like that. You could start it in any gaon, any rural area in India. You don't need, yes, you need to have access, maybe to a laptop to start a project. But if other women see what you're doing with just one laptop, learning it, loaning it to other women, and then doing projects, having their documents printed, having their children's assignments printed, there'll be a company, there'll be some businessman, some entrepreneur will say, I can sponsor that. I can help a woman with a sewing machine just for her to learn a skill, to learn how to stitch, a sari blouse or a choli, or to do repairs and get money out of it. It just takes something. And it doesn't have to be a lot. And anybody can start something, but you have to start somewhere. You have to say, you know what, I'm going to start a NGO. I'm going to start a foundation. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to firstly make people aware. Tell people about what you're doing. Get people on board. Get an audience. Who is your target group? Who do you want to target? Do you want to target women? What kind of women? So these are the questions. Do your homework. Do your research. And even if it's one life, always remember that you can change one life at a time. And what I'd like to do is I'd like other women to start off something empowering and other women. So what you have is you have a snowball effect. You can start a revolution this way. You can start a social movement. A woman anywhere, globally, wherever, they can say, yes, I want to have something similar to Power to Empower. All I'm going to do is I'm good at writing. Maybe I'm going to start writing my novel. Maybe I'm going to start writing poetry. And that's, use your message, whether you've been through a difficult time, write it down, say your story. Somebody is going to listen to you. Keep knocking on doors, keep doing it. When I started, there were days when I was at home, like I said, I brought that story where I was stagnating. I had nothing to do. My child was gone to school. I couldn't stagnate. I couldn't. You would nosedive. You would go downhill. You will retrogress. Start to do something. It is in helping others that we help ourselves. I always believe that. And always, if you help other people, somebody will see the good you're doing. Somebody will notice you somewhere. And that's when it's going to be your springboard. You're going to launch. And that's when you become unstoppable. And that's when you become powerful.
That's wonderful, Dr. Usha. I can see that you're not only a motivational speaker, you not only go on platforms and you share your beautiful story with others and inspire others, but you are also doing a lot of work for the people who cannot afford things like the soup kitchen, like having a computer, like having facilities for people to come and use. Now that requires funds. Who can they reach out to you?
Yes, thank you, Naveena. I have to say, one of my severe weaknesses is having to ask for money. I have to confess, it's not easy because we have so many people say, look, there's budget cuts, immediately. And I know that's a reality. And also COVID is launched us into a state where lots of funds are being diverted towards COVID projects. But I'd like to say that, when you see a good project and when you see somebody who's willing to put the name behind it, the face behind it, the self behind it, then that's a project, and you can see the person is able to show, and be honest enough to say, I can only change one life at a time, then that's a project you should honor. That's a project you could support. And definitely, we can always do with angel investing. We can always do with more investments. We can always do with more money. That will mean more lives would be changed. And we can definitely make a difference in many more lives. So it does not have to be simply with me in South Africa, but also in India. My appeal is also for India, because I'm given the platform here today. So I appeal to anybody out there, support a project, also adopt a project like what Power to Empower is. Start something in India and just let this become a worldwide, let this become a global project. It just takes a sewing machine or a laptop that somebody's not using, and get the women, get children, get adolescents, get somebody involved. And even if there's a chef there with brilliant cooking skills, baking skills, teach somebody else, train somebody else, equip somebody else, and we can start a revolution. Let's not stop this. Let's be unstoppable.
Thank you, Dr. Usha. If I want to contact you to be able to share funds for Power to Empower, how do I do that?
I have a website, which is www.power2empower.co.za.
Wonderful. And that has all the details, what work you do in Power to Empower, and how people can reach out and help with sharing monetary funds for the wonderful work you do.
Yes, definitely.
That's wonderful. Thank you once again, Dr. Usha, for your time.
Thank you so much. I'm really, for your team, and thank you for everything.
Thank you so much for sharing such a beautiful takeaway, and also giving your precious time to inspire other women and men who are watching this video out there. What you have shared is not just a motivational speech, but you have shared your whole life in simple words with us. I am sure that people who are looking at this video have learned a lot today. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so very much, Naveena.